Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Barrister Manta, thank you for joining us once again today. For those of you who do not know Barrister Manta, if this is your first time of joining us, of watching, being on this channel, obviously, you wouldn't know Barrister Manta. He is a very senior legal practitioner of over 40 years in practice. And for those of you who are returning viewers, you obviously know Barrister Manta because he is just like a co-host on this show. From the inception of this show, he's been very regular. Barrister, thank you once again for joining us.
It's always my pleasure to be here.
All right. We have so many things. I hope time will permit us to talk about all the topics that are outlined for us to talk about today. Okay, but let's just kick in. Let's start with this. Senator Ndume. I want us to talk about Senator Ndume. Is an APC man, right?
Yes, he's APC.
Now, let me read this thing briefly. Senator Ndume accuses Tinubu's government of unapproved loans, slams spurious borrowing practices. Borno South Senator Ali Ndume has raised serious concerns about President Bola Tinubu's administration, accusing the government of taking excessive loans from international financial institutions without the National Assembly's approval. During a recent appearance on Arise News Primetime, Ndume claimed that President Tinubu's government has borrowed as much as 13 trillion naira, $9.45 billion without legislative consent. Barrister, anyway, I don't want for purpose of time, I don't even want to go into details. Barrister, what the heck is going on? I mean, our president borrowed almost $10 billion without the approval of the Senate. This is unbelievable. We'll come back to that, but let's start with this Ndume as an APC man. Ndume has always been a very a kind of a critic of the sitting government. I consider him somehow controversial. I think it was the one that talked about pilot budget in the past that they suspended, right? The same Ndume. So, and he's been critical of government of the day. I don't know. The man seemed to have some courage and guts. He seemed to be he seemed to do some things that that is very, very unusual of Nigerian politician. I don't know. I'm surprised that the powers that be still keep allowing him. They allow him to come back. He's been in the Senate since 2003. So he still keeps coming back and coming. I think he started from the House of Rep, coming back and coming back. I'm surprised that the powers that be has not rigged him out, because the man seemed to be doing something. But my problem is all this money they share in the Senate. We know he's always he's been part of the sharing stuff, or the sharing of the loot. So I don't know. I think he's conflicted as far as I'm concerned. He criticizes the government, but at the same time he partakes of the corruption in the Senate. Barrister, what's your take on this?
Exactly. You used the word that actually captures what Ndume is. He's conflicted. He is neck deep in whatever is going on that is bad in the Senate and in the leadership and in the politics of Nigeria. Now and again, you hear him. Apparently, if you dig deep, maybe that has touched him personally or touched the group that he belongs to personally. You hear him make a noise. But he has never separated himself from the rot, from the corruption that is going on in the Senate, from the corrupt policies that is going on, from the maladministration of the past regime by Buhari. I aptly so, where a commentator said he didn't comment because he commented on the disproportionate appointments that Buhari Tinubu has been making, and somebody said he was quiet when Buhari made the same appointment that favored his own place. He didn't challenge those appointments then. So he is part and parcel of the system that is holding the country in servitude. And that is why when they make some of these statements, they don't carry weight. He cannot go and make that in the Senate. Or if I heard him reading out the borrowings by project in a video. This thing he was calling the numbers of the loans that were borrowed. Any claim where there's decency in politics, any allegation by a credible person that the government, and in this case the president, had borrowed without the approval of the Senate, which is an impeachable offense. It is an impeachable offense. There can be no external borrowing without the consent of the Senate. It would have resulted in a big crisis. There would have been hearings. But you say nobody has commented on this. The Senate that should take it up is pocketed by Tinubu. And if you present it like that, they will either suspend you or even give you a harsher punishment. So this is the kind of environment we live in. All manner of things are said to be happening, illegal unconstitutionalities. Who will take up the challenge? This is a three-time senator telling the country that the government has borrowed billions and billions without the constitutionally provided consent or permission of the National Assembly. And you don't hear anybody, even the mainstream media, they are quiet. Apart from you raising this matter on a platform like this, we just heard it and everybody went to sleep in the normal way, something that should be a bombshell in a country where decency occurs. But of course, this is Nigeria where everything now goes. Everything now goes. It's a free-for-all country today we live in.
Honestly, it's so sad. When I read this, I say, what the hell is going on in this country? I know that the country is, when it comes to corruption, is bad. We've talked about this issue of borrowing, how Tinubu has been reckless in borrowing. But at the same time, we didn't know. I didn't know. I don't know if you knew, but I didn't know that all the borrowing has been unanimous. Not unanimous, sorry, has been sold instead of something that is supposed to pass through the National Assembly, Senate to be precise. That's just unbelievable that the president would just unilaterally take such decision and go outside and borrow. I don't know. I don't get it. The people borrowing us, I don't know. Under normal circumstances, international, global institutions, financial institutions do not give out loans without the proper approval from the government. And they know, all the global institutions, they know the proper, because there is a standard for this. So there are documentations for this. They have to see the proceedings. They have to go through the whatever, get the approval from the national. But I don't know how come they borrowed out, gave out Nigeria loan without proper documentation, proper procedure. Do you see them encountering some legal jeopardy? That is the global institutions, the financial institutions. Do you see them encountering some kind of legal jeopardy in future, where probably a president who comes, just like what Donald Trump is doing now to revamp the US, or whatever, comes and wants to do the right thing and curb all manner of corruption? Is it possible for that president to deny them, but legally tell the financial institutions that you didn't pass through the normal process, so as such, go and get your money from whoever you loan the money. You didn't loan the money to Nigeria.
That is precisely what ought to happen. Just like internal borrowing, when you approach a bank to borrow money, there are some requirements, some documentation that you
Correct.
bring. If you are a company, they will say bring a board resolution authorizing you to
Right.
borrow.
Yeah.
These are documents you will produce to a bank to give you the money because they have legal consequences. So also on the international public law, if you are borrowing as a country, but you have to understand that there are multilateral and bilateral borrowings. There are some multilateral borrowing from agencies at a lower level. Some of them are in form of grants. Some are outright lending. But you are supposed to have documentation. If it is not somebody giving you a grant, we are helping you to do this. If it is money that you are to pay back at some time in the future, there has to be proper documentation. And if there is no documentation, legal issues will arise along the way. That look, this thing was got without the requisite constitutional and legal approval to collect that loan. But again, remember, the international economic system and legal system is skewed against third world countries like Nigeria. Whenever we have issues, we have had arbitrations against Nigeria, and we stand very little chance. Even now, currently going on in Paris, the where Obasanjo, Buhari, and others have testified, it's not looking good for Nigeria because these people control the international legal and economic system. Once the thing goes to that side, it becomes difficult for us to scale through. And then, of course, a government that will go all the way to challenge that has to be a radical government, which for now we are yet to see, and is what we have been clamoring for. We need a nationalistic government that will come in, challenge the status quo, challenge what has been done in our name, both locally and internationally, and take on the powers that be. We have seen small countries in the Sahel region of Africa, Burkina Faso, Niger, they are doing it. Why can't we do it? There has been some time in the past where some of the loans that Nigeria collected were questionable. When Obasanjo was touring the world to get debt forgiveness for Nigeria, those were some of the issues he raised. That some of these loans that you ascribed to us were questionable in nature. They didn't have approvals. We didn't know what was done with the money. The money simply went back to the lenders in one form or the other. So he had all this thing packaged. At the end of the day, a substantial portion of the debt was waived. But that is the diplomatic way. We need a leader who will come up and say, look, once this loan has no requisite approval, we are not paying, period. You can do whatever you want, you can go to hell. But this loan legally should not be ascribed to Nigeria. We
Honestly,
don't have that leadership, unfortunately.
honestly, that is what honestly that is what I expect any credible president to do. I'm telling you, so that there will be that will serve as deterrence to subsequent loans, future loans or whatever. So because you don't just take laws into your I don't get it. This is not your private business. Even private business, just like you mentioned, you have to go through board. The bank cannot borrow you money without seeing board going to at least you submitting board resolution for that. It's not, that is just crazy, honestly. I wish we actually get a president or a head of state who would damn the global institutions who borrowed us money and call their bluff and let them go to hell and do what they can do, sort of, because by law, as far as the law is concerned, Nigeria didn't borrow money from them. They didn't loan to Nigeria. They loaned it to the president, not as an institution, as a person, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the law is concerned. Anyway, Let's move
Again,
to the.
let me just add that we in Nigeria will also have a role to play. When I saw Ndume, he was giving particulars of the loans, calling one loan after the other. Some were $800 million, some 1 point something billion. He was calling each one by its name, and for the purpose, particular purpose. He will say this amount, $800 million, was taken for this. This was taken for that. Are we not supposed as Nigerians to interrogate those projects? Look, if you took $800 million, which is several hundred billion in Nigeria,
Yeah, of course.
what was the money done with? Where are the projects that this money was done with? It is high time we Nigerians interrogate some of these things and bring them to the fore and sensitize other Nigerians that these loans are being taken. We are not seeing what they are done for. You take a loan to support poverty alleviation. That is a bogus statement. Where are the records of that? And it is in billions and billions and billions of naira. So these are just avenues for corruption in a country that is already wired for corruption. You take loans, the benefit of which is very dubious, and the documentation itself is dubious, even from taking the loan, then from applying the loan proceeds. The dubious nature becomes very apparent. Well, who will you now line up and say these are the people that we paid the money to? The records are not made public. So how do you even know that these loans that were taken have been applied for the purpose for which they were taken? There is high time we campaign for greater utmost transparency in this country.